Hello everyone, in this video I bring you a tutorial showing you how to knit a basic preemie hat. As always, you can find the written instructions at craftytoots.com. I will be using double pointed needles size 4.0 millimeters and DK weight yarn, also known as baby yarn. So let's start by casting on 52 stitches. As you can see, I am using the long tail cast on. If you are not familiar with this method, I am going to leave a link below for a tutorial when I show you and explain it in a slower and easier way to follow. So I will cast on all my stitches in one needle, and then I need to divide them in 3 more needles, leaving one needle to be the working needle. That is if you have 5 double pointed needles. If you only have 4, then you will need to divide your stitches in 3 needles and leave the 4th one to work with it to knit. You may also use circular needles if you have a small one, or if you have a really big one, you can use the magic loop method if you're familiar with it. So here you can see that I'm just dividing all my stitches. I am not knitting yet. I am not working the stitches. I am simply sliding them so that I can create a round with the needles and obviously work in rounds. Once you slip all the stitches you want in one needle, just make sure to slide them in the middle so they don't fall out. And just repeat for all your needles. Because we have 52 stitches and it's not divisible by 4, we will have more stitches in some needles than others. Now you have to join your needles, and it's a little tricky at the start because you have just your cast on of stitches. But once you start knitting more rounds, it gets easier and easier as you have a base to work with. So just adjust your needles, and as I said before, you have one needle without any stitches to work with. I like to use a stitch marker to mark my beginning and end of the round, but a regular one might not be the best one because it can fall from a double pointed needle. So I recommend using a stitch marker that has clasp. It's not necessary, but it's easier than trying to figure out where your round starts and ends. So let's start by knitting 2 and purling 2. That will be our round 1, and we are going to repeat this all the way until the end. Just take your time. As you can see, it's a little bit tricky to adjust these needles, but once you're happy with the arrangement, start knitting 2. And then purling 2. Take your time if you're not used to using double pointed needles, and just go slow. After creating my first couple of stitches, I'm going to add my stitch marker. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I just find it's easier to keep track of my rounds. Again, our pattern for this first round is knit 2 and purl 2. This is to create the ribbing. Which will make the bottom of the hat snugly and to be fit to the head so it doesn't fall, but it's also very elastic. So keep repeating knit 2 stitches and purl 2 stitches all the way till the end of the round. The following rounds, round number 2 all the way to number 6, will be a repeat from this round. Here you can see that now I have an empty needle, and now I will use that needle to work my next set of stitches. Just arrange your needles in a way that no stitch will be twisted, and once you find it comfortable, grab your empty needle and continue working your stitches. Here you can see that my last 2 stitches were 2 purl stitches. That means that I have to continue my pattern by knitting 2 and then purling 2. As I mentioned before, you will also do a knit 2, purl 2 in rounds number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. To keep count of your rounds, you can use a row counter, or if you don't have one, you can just grab a piece of paper and do a mark each time you finish a round. Or you can do the number of the round. That will make it easier to just visually see in which round you are working. Also, if you like, you can print the pattern and scratch or mark with an X once you finish each round. Those are just ways to keep count of your rounds, so you don't knit more than you need to, or you don't knit 2 little rounds and then it becomes smaller than the size you're intending to make. Here you can see that a gap was formed because I didn't knit tight enough my stitches. And you can see it's the start of my next round. So I will make sure to pull really tight when I work my first stitch of the second round, so I can close this gap. Again, as I mentioned before, you will repeat the previous round by knitting 2 and purling 2, and you have to do it all the way. If you want, you can move your stitch marker up and follow each round. It's not necessary. So I kept working until I finished row number 6, and now I am ready to start row number 7, which will be knit all the way around. So that only means that you're gonna knit every single stitch until you get to the end of your round. You are going to repeat row number 7 until you get to row number 12, and each single round will be just to knit around. Once you finish round number 12, just make sure that you have almost 2 inches, so you will have the correct size. If you don't, feel free to knit 1 or 2 more rounds. If you are very close to 2 inches, then you can continue with row number 13, and this will be our first decrease. We are going to knit 11 stitches, and then we are going to knit 2 stitches together. Here you can see that 1 stitch remains in my needle and it won't be able to knit 2 together, so I'm just gonna slip that stitch in the opposite needle, and now I can work my 2 stitches together. So just insert your needle knitwise, going through 2 stitches instead of 1, and then knit them, and that makes a knit 2 together. Then knit 11 stitches again, and after you're done with your 11 stitches, you will have to again repeat the knit 2 together. Repeat this 2 more times, or until you get to the end of your round. Again, because of the way I separated my stitches, only 1 remains, so I have to slip it on the other needle. And now I can grab 2 stitches, insert my needle knitwise, grab my yarn, and knit them both together as if there were just 1 stitch. By the end of this round, you will have decreased 4 stitches. So you will have 48 stitches left in your needles. From here on, every round will have decreases. Your next round will be round number 14, and you will knit 10 stitches, knit 2 together, and then repeat that all the way until the end. So knit 10, knit 2 together, and repeat around. Again, 4 stitches will be decreased, which will leave you with 44 stitches in your needles. For the next round, round number 15, knit 9 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then knit 2 together. And again, you will repeat it all the way until the end. Just like in the previous rounds, 4 stitches will be decreased, which will leave you with 40 stitches total in your needles. For the next round, round number 16, we are going to knit 8 stitches, knit 2 together, and again repeat a round. Again, I am left with 1 stitch in my needle, so I just going to slip it in the next one. And because I know there I can work, repeat it with knit 8 and then knit 2 together. And this round will have 36 stitches left after working all the decreases. As you can see, slowly we are shaping our crown and getting less stitches. Here I'm just, before starting to work my next round, I am slipping my end stitches because I already know that I will have to do that, so this will just make it easier and I can work my repeats in each needle. So now that I have slipped the stitches to make it easier to work with, I'm going to continue with the next round, which I need to knit 7 and then knit 2 together. Because in each round we are having less and less stitches, that is why I recommend using double pointed needles, because they are very easy to adjust to the size you need. After you finish this round, you will have 32 stitches remaining in your needles. Next, to start round number 18, you have to knit 6 stitches, and then knit 2 stitches together and repeat all the way until the end of the round. By the end, you will have 28 stitches remaining in your needle. Followed by round number 19. Knit 5 stitches, then knit 2 together. Just like in every previous round that included a decrease, we're going to repeat it all the way around. And by the end of this round, you will have 24 stitches remaining on your needles. For round number 20, we are going to knit 4 stitches, then knit 2 together, and repeat around. Again, knit 4, knit 2 together. By the end of this round, you will have 20 stitches remaining in your needle. Followed by round number 21, we're going to knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3, and then again knit 2 together and repeat around. By the end of this round, you will have 16 stitches remaining. The following round is round number 22. In this round, we need to knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 together. Repeat around. And after we're done, we are going to have 12 stitches remaining in our needle. Next, for round number 23, we have to knit 1, then knit 2 and repeat around. Again, knit 1, followed by knit 2 together all the way to the end, which will leave you with 8 stitches. Finally, for round number 24, we're going to do a knit 2 together and repeat it all the way around. This is our last round. It's starting to be a little tricky, but just go slow and finish all your stitches. Once you get to the end of the round, you will have 4 stitches remaining. We are not going to bind off the stitches, but instead we're going to use, or at least I'm going to use, a yarn needle, and I'm going to pull my yarn through them to close them. If you are familiar with the Kitchener stitch technique, you can also use that to close it. But I find this way easier and just as useful, and it's almost the same. So just slip your stitches in your needle, in your yarn needle, with a long tail left to catch on those stitches. Then pull slightly tight to close any possible gap. Now I'm going to turn it inside out. I am going to secure this yarn by creating a knot. Most people prefer not to create knots in their knitted items because this can reduce the stretchiness of the fabric, but because it's all the way in the top and I want to close a possible gap that can be created by the stitches, this will be okay. But it's up to you. If you prefer not to create a knot, then don't do it. Here I'm just weaving in my yarn. After I do this so it's long enough that it won't come off, I will move to the next end, the one that was created at the beginning of our project, and I will also weave it in. And if you remember, at the beginning there was a little gap because I wasn't able to knit it very close together, so I'm just going to use my yarn now and close it so that my beginning stitch and my end stitch are closer, and it creates a better look for the hat. And now, as I mentioned before, I'm just weaving in the ends. Once you're pleased, you can just cut your yarn and adjust it. Remove your stitch marker, of course. And if you like, you can block it. And there you go, you have a little Preemie knitted hat. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and remember that you can find the written pattern at craftytoots.com.